What if the only bridge between who you are and who you need to become is fear? How many times have we stood before something great, not on the outside, but within? A calling that demands more than courage. It demands presence, a decision that cannot be postponed, even if the heart trembles. What do you do when the path ahead offers no guarantees? Do you stop? Do you wait for the river to recede? Or do you step into the water, even without seeing the other side? There are moments when life brings us to the edge of ourselves, and there, where everything seems uncertain, is where the greatest crossings are born. They are not made of steps but of silence, surrender, and renunciation. Have you ever been in that place, where time seems suspended, where the voices around you fall silent, and where the only answer is the sound of your own heartbeat? That is where you must master the now. Ignore the fear, not out of recklessness, but out of wisdom, because fear was never the enemy. The enemy is paralysis, procrastination, the illusion that life will wait for you. In this video, we'll dive into an ancient story, but one that may be your story right now. The crossing of the Jordan is not just a biblical episode, it is a symbol, a sacred code of transformation, a reminder that the miracle only happens after your foot touches the water. If you're looking for more than cliches, if you want a path of self-mastery, inner silence, and emotional strength, stay until the end and subscribe. Here, every narrative is a compass, and every lesson a way to return to center. Today, we'll uncover the Stoic message behind Master the Now. Ignore the fear. The crossing of the Jordan. The sun rises slowly over the plains of Shittim. The wind is calm, but the air is thick with tension. There, on the banks of the Jordan River, an entire nation waits. Men, women, children, animals. The people of Israel, after 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, carrying memories of hunger, miracles, and murmurs, they finally stand before the land promised to them. But between them and their destiny flows the Jordan. The river is not just a body of water, it represents the threshold, the final barrier. It is the season of flood. The waters are deep, fast, muddy. The sound rising from its banks is an invitation to doubt. How can they cross safely? Where is the bridge? Logic demands waiting, but there is something greater at stake. The crossing of the Jordan is not just physical, it is spiritual. And here, Joshua, the new leader, must make a decision. Joshua is not Moses. He lives in the shadow of the prophet, who raised his staff and parted the Red Sea, who spoke with God face to face. But now, the weight of leadership falls on him. The people look to him in silence, waiting for direction. And he, even with a heavy heart, chooses to listen, not to fear, but to something deeper, the inner presence. There are no speeches, no guarantees, only a simple, almost illogical, command that comes as divine instruction. Tell the priests to carry the Ark of the Covenant and step into the river. It is not a battle strategy, not a plan to build a bridge. It is an act of faith, a surrender to trust. The Ark, the symbol of the covenant between the sacred and the human, must touch the waters. The people watch, unsure what to expect. The Jordan continues to rush before them, promising nothing. And then, they begin. The priests rise. They carry the Ark with reverence. Their eyes do not search for signs in the sky. They focus only on the now. The first step is the hardest. The ground is uncertain. The bank is wet, slippery. But they move forward. With each step, the sound of the water seems to grow louder. The current stirs as if testing the men's courage. But the march does not stop. And then, at the exact moment the priest's feet touch the river, not before, not after, the waters cease, as if obeying an unseen authority. The flow is cut off, creating a dry path for the people to cross. There was no warning, no spectacle. True faith, like Stoic virtue, acts in silence. It does not shout. It does not demand an audience. It walks, even when the ground has not yet appeared. The people cross, in silence, step by step, without fanfare, without premature celebration. There is something sacred in restraint, a reverence for the moment. No sounds of victory, only the sound of footsteps on the now dry riverbed. It is the sound of silent overcoming, the sound of spiritual maturity. Joshua watches, attentive. He is not intoxicated by success. His focus is on the process. He knows that every step taken is the result of a prior decision. The choice not to wait for comfort, the choice not to negotiate with fear. When the crossing is complete, Joshua does not call for a feast. He calls for remembrance. He commands one man from each tribe to take a stone from the middle of the river, from the very place where the priest's feet stood. Wet stones, heavy, rough, but full of meaning. They do not symbolize power, but process. Not conquest, but crossing. They are markers of those who had the courage to walk, while everything around them was still uncertain. These stones are stacked. They form an altar, a monument to what cannot be seen. Trust, mastery of the now, silence in the face of fear, because the true miracle was not the water stopping. It was someone having the courage to step in before it happened. What is revealed in this biblical story is not just divine intervention. It is a precise choreography between faith and reason, between risk and direction. It is the meeting of a man with his own maturity. Joshua did not face an army. He faced doubt, and he chose to act anyway. This crossing is also a treatise on the human soul, about the moment we leave the internal desert behind, but have not yet set foot in the promised land. It is that space between who we no longer are and who we have not yet become. A space where only the present matters, and the present demands a decision. In that moment, Joshua embodies the essence of Stoicism: conscious action, steadfastness in the face of the unknown, trust in the invisible order of things. He did not allow himself to be swayed by the people's emotions or the memories of the past. He did not cling to the need for absolute control. He simply acted in accordance with duty, what Marcus Aurelius would call following the nature of reason. The crossing of the Jordan is a living metaphor for our inner journey. Each of us one day stands before our own limit, before our own personal Jordan, a difficult decision, an irreparable loss, a leap with no safety net. And at that point, what do we do? Do we wait for the fear to pass, or do we walk with it? Joshua teaches, without words, that maturity is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. That faith is not the expectation of results, but the courage of presence. That the path is only revealed when the step is taken. The silence of the crossing still echoes today, not as an absence of sound, but as a presence of awareness. It is not about conquering fear with shouts or proofs. It is about honoring the now with integrity. The stones of that altar still speak. They say the path opens for those who move, that strength of spirit builds invisible bridges, and that the true promised land is not a geographical place, but an inner state, self-mastery. That the promised land begins where hesitation ends, and every firm step in the face of uncertainty is already a piece of the miracle. Joshua did not face fear with fury. He did not reject it, nor did he try to silence it. With shouts of bravery, he dissolved it with presence, with posture, with that kind of steadfastness that makes no noise yet moves mountains. The crossing of the Jordan was not just an act of faith, it was also a gesture of deep alignment with the philosophy of right action, the backbone of Stoicism. Joshua did not ask for proof. He received an order that seemed illogical: to step into a raging river carrying the Ark of the Covenant, and yet he chose to obey, not out of blindness, but out of clarity, because there are moments when true reasoning does not lead us to wait longer, but to act better. This crossing is what Marcus Aurelius would call an act of silent integrity. In Meditations, he writes, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Joshua did not try to appear strong. He simply was. He did not explain to the people what would happen. He did not lecture on courage, nor did he dramatize the situation. He followed what the Stoics call action in accordance with the nature of reason, doing what must be done. At the time it must be done, with a spirit willing to accept the consequences, like the Stoic sages. Joshua knew he could not control the waters of the Jordan. He could not predict the exact moment they would stop. He could not guarantee the safety of every man, woman, and child, but he could control one thing: his own response to uncertainty. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy. As Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters." Joshua did not see the river as an obstacle. He saw it as a passage. The Jordan was not an enemy. It was a test, a bridge between the old and the new, between promise and fulfillment, between the desert of hesitation and the solid ground of maturity. What many saw as danger, he saw as opportunity. And this did not come from positive thinking, but from a firm awareness, from a soul trained to respond with reason, not impulse. The Stoics believed that the greatest freedom lies in mastering what is within our control and accepting what is not. Joshua did not try to manipulate the situation. He surrendered to the moment with responsibility. He did his part and let the universe, or the divine, do the rest. Seneca, in one of his letters, wrote, "The difficulty comes from not knowing what we want, or lacking the courage to follow what we know is right." Joshua knew, and he had courage. This is the virtue of endurance, not stubbornness, not pride, but maturity. The maturity that understands true strength is not in avoiding fear, but in walking through it. That understands real faith does not demand constant proof. It reveals itself in the calm gesture of one who walks forward even with a heavy heart. The crossing of the Jordan is therefore a perfect portrait of Stoic philosophy applied to life. It is not about miracles, it is about choices, about how we respond to the unknown. About how we remain faithful to our duty, even when everything around us seems uncertain. Joshua was more than a religious leader. He was a master of present action, an example of inner discipline, and a man who understood that virtue does not wait for perfect conditions, it builds the path with what it has. And this, perhaps, is one of the deepest lessons that biblical wisdom and Stoicism share. Life does not promise stability, but it demands presence, and those willing to walk, even through the current, carry within them a peace that no storm can drown. And you, what Jordan are you standing before now? Maybe it's not a literal river, but a silence that has lasted too long, a decision you've been postponing because you're afraid to lose what no longer makes sense, a change that requires leaving the familiar desert behind, even without knowing exactly what awaits on the other side. Sometimes the Jordan appears as a relationship that ended, but whose absence you still haven't crossed. Other times it shows up as a career decision that demands the courage to say no to comfort and yes to what challenges you. It might be the conversation you need to have but avoid, the truth you already know but haven't had the courage to accept. Are you living your own invisible prison? That cycle of silent repetitions where everything seems the same, but deep down you know you're already in a new season, yet you remain stuck in the old one, like someone who has left Egypt but still fears crossing the Jordan, who hurt you and you still haven't forgiven. Sometimes the weight holding you back isn't external, it's internal. Resentments keeping you in the shallows, grudges turning the present into mud, and pride that insists on carrying stones, when the soul only needs to walk lightly. Is this discomfort you feel your preparation? Many complain about waiting, but they ignore that deserts in the Bible and in life are places of training. Joshua wasn't called to lead right after leaving Egypt. It took 40 years of road, dust, and testing until he was ready to cross the Jordan. Maybe what you call delay is alignment. And maybe this discomfort is your soul calling you to cross. The truth is, fear is rarely an enemy, it's a messenger. It appears when something important is at stake, and the louder it screams, the closer you are to something transformative. Stoicism teaches that we should observe emotions without being ruled by them. Anger, anxiety, fear, they are all natural. But it's our response that defines the quality of the crossing. You can spend your life waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the current to slow, the winds to calm, for everything to feel safe and predictable. But maybe the crossing only happens when you dare to step in, even while trembling. When you understand that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the choice to walk forward anyway. Look at your life now. What decision are you avoiding? What pain are you postponing? What step do you know you need to take, but keep waiting for a sign? Maybe the sign is this discomfort, this restlessness, this quiet voice that led you here, to this video, to this reflection. The crossing is intimate. It's yours alone. No one can step into your Jordan for you. But what I can tell you, with the serenity of one who walks alongside you, is that there is a kind of peace that only comes after the step. There is a clarity that only appears when you leave solid ground, and there is a version of you more whole, more mature, more free, waiting on the other side of what you fear to face today. This isn't about haste, but about decision. It's not about feeling ready, but surrendering to the present moment with integrity. The water will keep flowing, the world will stay chaotic. But within you, there is a silent point that knows exactly what must be done. You can wait for the river to lower. Or you can step into the water, even trembling, and let strength come not before the step, but because of it. The choice is yours. It always has been. The wise man does not walk with certainty, he walks with courage. Joshua did not cross the Jordan because he had all the answers. He crossed because he understood that some journeys cannot be made with logic but with inner faith, the kind born from silence and presence. Like him, perhaps you, too, stand before something that can only be understood once you take the step. Until then, all is folk assumptions and fear masquerading as caution. But the now is the only solid ground you truly have. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Don't wait for perfect signs or absolute certainty that everything will work out. The courage that changes lives is born in the midst of doubt, not in its absence. And when you finally cross, when you look back and realize you survived what once seemed impossible, build altars. Not just to celebrate what you achieved, but to honor who you chose to be in the crossing. Because in the end, that's what matters. Not the applause, not the numbers, not others' approval, but the quiet integrity of the one who kept going despite fear, the one who remained true to their conscience, the one who stepped into murky waters with no promise of ease, only purpose. If this story has stirred something deep within you, consider following this channel. Here, every narrative is more than a lesson. It's a compass for those tired of shortcuts and craving depth, a space where ancient wisdom speaks to your real life, to your current struggles, to your personal Jordan. With every video, a reminder, the crossing is yours, but you are never alone.